Today, I want to talk about dildos and vibrators and things like that. So I just noticed that these things are becoming more and more common, and people are talking about them more and more openly. And some people are starting to ask, well, should I really be using this? And it's just becoming common advice that if you're not getting some and you really need it, just use a vibrator or use a dildo. People are becoming more open about talking about how they use them and what they do with them and even marketing them. What do you think? Let's talk about it. First of all, let's talk about the very crux of the matter. What is at play here? What is the heart of this matter? Let's call it what it is. Using vibrators and dildos and all that is called masturbation. It's an alternative for the real act of sexual intercourse between a man and a woman. So it's like, okay, in situations where you can't get that, this is an alternative for you. So there are two purposes to sexual intercourse. One is for procreation. That's the only way that a person can procreate, of course, except with artificial intervention like artificial insemination or IVF and things like that. But that's the only natural way that people can procreate, that human beings can procreate, or even animals. That's one. And the second, of course, is for pleasure. Of course, dildos, vibrators, sex toys, and things like that cannot replace the procreation bit. And the pleasure bit, what we're talking about, since you're not getting it from somebody else, it's talking about self-gratification and self-indulgence. And yeah, so people who argue for the use of these things and talk about sex, people tend to talk about it as an urge and as a desire, a natural urge and a natural desire that needs to be satisfied. Much like eating or the need for food is a natural desire that needs to be satisfied, or the need for love and affection is a natural desire that needs to be satisfied. And I agree completely. However, the sexual urge is in a class different from an urge like food and thirst and all that. They're in different classes. One is necessary for survival, the other one is not necessary for survival. So if you don't eat or you don't drink, you will die. But if you don't have sex, nothing is going to happen to you. Literally nothing. You're not going to die. Please follow me. We're going somewhere with this. It's an urge that comes up, and yeah, it needs to be satisfied, but it's not something that is going to kill you if you don't satisfy it. Even for things like food and thirst, we go out of our way to fulfill them in the best possible way. If you see somebody eating rotten food with maggots or eating out of the dustbin, that means that things have reached the height of it. Maybe the person is in a near-death situation. The same thing with water. No matter how thirsty, we'll go out of our way to get to where we can get at least edible food that is okay for consumption, consumable food or consumable water that will not harm us before we satisfy those urges. So how much more sexual urges that are not going to kill you? The key is that for urges that are not life-threatening, you have to look at the pros and the cons and be sure that what you're doing is not going to harm you in any way before you go ahead and carry it out. That's the first thing I would say. I'm still going somewhere with this, so just follow me. Now, the other thing is this, that not every urge or every desire needs to be fulfilled. And we do this all the time. There are a lot of other urges like the desire for alcohol, the desire for drugs or other things that people decide, I'm not going to fulfill this desire because they have thought about it. So that means that not every urge that comes to you needs to be fulfilled. One of the hallmarks of maturity is discipline, and discipline has two sides to it. Number one is the side of the things you restrict yourself from doing. And the other side is the things that you compel yourself to do. So discipline makes you compel yourself to do certain things that are good for you, and it makes you restrict yourself from carrying out certain things that are harmful for you. And so you can actually decide on certain things whether you want to do them or not. You are not pushed by the urge or the desire to just do things. You think about it, you weigh it out, and then you take a decision on whether you want to do it or not. Now, this brings me to my third point. The fact that you're watching this and, probably means you're in two minds about it. Is it right? Is it wrong? That means that it is kind of sitting on your conscience and you're conflicted in your mind. You have this moral conflict about it. Is it really something I should be doing? And that means you're somewhat not so comfortable with it. Now, when things are in that place, your best option is to listen to your conscience. The conscience is one of the most difficult things for you to defy. If you defy it, you're going to be living with guilt and all sorts of emotions that go with defying your conscience. Your conscience is not so much about what is generally right or what is generally wrong. It's about what you think is right, what you think is wrong. And guess what? Guilt and heaviness of the conscience are very personal. It's like pain. I cannot describe the level of my pain to another person. I cannot even weigh whether both of us are having the same level of pain, because it's about feelings, about how I feel about it. It's purely about what it's doing to my own nerves and to my own mind and all that. So conscience is something like that. The guilt, weight on the conscience is very, very personal. So it's not necessarily about what is right or wrong for everybody. It's about what is right or wrong for you. Having said that, let's weigh the pros and cons of using these things. First of all, we've said that the only thing that you stand to gain from it is pleasure, is the self-gratification, the fact that you satisfied your natural urge. That's all you get from it. There's nothing else, absolutely nothing else that you get from it. That release of dopamine that comes from the fact that, oh Lord, I got there, I got what I needed. That's all you get from it. But what do you stand to lose? Now, many times when people talk about the harmlessness of masturbation, what they are referring to is the fact that there's no medical or physical harm or risk that you stand when you do that. But we also know that there are many things that don't have a medical or physical risk, but that have other kinds of risk. And most of the risks of masturbation are mental and psychological. One major one is that it causes a lot of detachment, because now you can do it by yourself, you can sort out yourself, so you tend not to need people. You understand? And sex now becomes a tool, just a tool rather than a relational action. And so if I can sort myself out, I don't even need to connect with you on an emotional level to do that. I don't have to connect with anyone on any kind of level to do that. And so there's just that detachment that you can develop. And it's a psychological thing. You may not even realize the effects until you need it, until you get into a relationship and you realize that you are disconnected from this person because you don't need them. In every relationship, there's a level of need or reliance that the parties need to have on each other. And sex plays a great role in bringing out that need. There's a level of connection that physical union brings out. But the minute I can get the same satisfaction by doing it by myself, or even better, that's the thing. Because these are mechanical devices, there are things they can do that a human cannot do. You understand? I mean, we use machines in our kitchens. There are things machines can do far, far better than we can do with our hands. Those of us that make swallows, when you're trying to make swallows, all you need to get is a dough mixer and do that thing. It will be lumpless. It will do it better, faster than you can ever do. And so you find out that mechanical devices they can do certain things that humans can't do. And once the human can't do that, it's going to bring in that dissatisfaction into the relationship, because people do it even when they are apart for a while and you can't get it. My thinking is that it's an urge that you need to control when there's nobody around to satisfy it. The cons are not physical, they are emotional, they are mental. The guilt that you feel, the heaviness in your conscience, the sense of detachment that comes with it. There are a lot of emotional and psychological cons, downsides to using mechanical devices to self-satisfy, because the act in itself was created by God to be between people, not between device and person. That's the way that God intended it to be. And so I would say stay away from mechanical devices. I put self-gratification in that way in the same class as drinking, in the same class as the alcohol consumption, gambling, and things that addict. Self-gratification, masturbation, and using all those mechanical devices tends to become addictive because of how much dopamine they release to you. And so because you want to continually feel the high, things like that tend to become addictive. And anything that tends to become addictive is something that you should stay away from in the first place. If it's likely to addict you, then it's not very wise to even start it in the first place. Just stay away from it and get things done in natural ways. Somebody will say, oh yeah, where did they write that in the Bible? The truth is that it's not written anywhere in the Bible, but there are some things that the Bible just encapsulates under maybe uncleanness, and that's where I would put it. So if you really ask me, I would say stay away. Don't get sucked into the trap. It's a rabbit hole that once you go down, you can't tell where it's going to lead you, but it's more likely to lead you to addiction than not. So somebody now asks, so what do I do when I can't satisfy the urge? Channel your energy somewhere else. I mean that. Channel your energy somewhere else. Don't put your mind on it. Think of other things, do other things, and soon the energy will be doused. I'm not in any way underplaying the need for it. I'm not saying that it's not a difficult situation. It is. It can be a very, very difficult situation. But also understand that many times the reason why things become difficult for us is because of the perspective and the meaning that we ascribe to them, rather than the actual meaning or significance of the event or situation itself. And so because you feel you've told yourself that, oh, I'm supposed to do this, I deserve this, I'm open for this, then that entitlement in your head arouses the feeling more in you. But if you can channel your energy and just say, you know what, I'm going to wait till the right time to satisfy this thing with the right person, they are less likely to experience it at such a great degree, and it's going to be easier for you to work through situations like that. So that's my 2 cents. Do you agree? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Remember to like my video, to share it with somebody who will find it useful, and definitely remember to subscribe to my channel. Have you heard about the Valiant Women's Network? It's a thriving community of women where we learn, we help each other grow, we celebrate one another, and we carry out all sorts of activities that will help us grow and thrive as women. If you'd like to join, the link is in the description below. Till I come your way again next time. Ciao!